Imagine a vibrant discussion between people that includes both openness and critical thought in the pursuit of truth. The Purchasing Truth podcast is an experience, a journey, an exploration of the impact that negative messages in politics and the media have on our families, community, society, and nation. Join your hosts, Bill Stierle and Tom to discover new concepts and language strategies that will reveal effective ways of establishing truth. This podcast series will tackle current events, leadership challenges, healthcare confusion, integrity in business, and many other areas that affect us all. Gain clarity and understanding of the various truth perspectives. Welcome to Purchasing Truth.
Hey everyone, welcome back to Purchasing Truth. I'm Tom Hazard, along with Bill Stierle. And, you know, Bill, I really enjoyed our last episode, our last conversation, where we were touching on some things that are happening internationally. And it was getting sounding a little hopeless there at one point. And then you brought it back at the end and you said, hey, it's okay. There's a North Star. And, you know, we're talking about purchasing truth through agreements, laws, and beliefs, and there's an international piece that makes it complex. So I'm excited to have you show us the way.
So let's take a simple example, Tom, that you and I will start chuckling about as soon as I bring this example up. So, Tom, when you and I were growing up, we might have played baseball out in the street with our friends. And there might have been a ball that was, you know, and a bat that was there playing baseball. And one of us might have swung the bat and hit the ball, and it went through a neighbor's window.
It wasn't me, I promise. Yes.
Now, went through their neighbor's window, went through their lawn, went through their yard, broke a gate, chipped some paint, hit their car, whatever. There was inherently a mistake. Okay.
Yes.
All right. So there is an exercise that I've done with groups of parents where I take the two groups of parents, I take a group of parents and split them into two and put them into two different rooms. And then I have them discuss what would they say. One group I'd have them discuss, how do you talk this through with your kid? The kid hit the ball, went through this. And the other group, I asked them, well, what would you talk through and what were some things that you would say if it was your neighbor that was playing with the kids and hit the ball through the window? How would you talk to the neighbor? One group is how do you talk to the kids? And one is how do you talk to the neighbor?
Oh, I can't wait to hear the results of this.
Oh, it's so unsettling. Because they were to write down the sentences that they would say to the kid about what the kid needed to do next. And the other group was, here is what the conversation was and what was being said to the adult. Clearly, the conversations were very, very different. One was laden with judgments, blames, apologies, retribution. Here's how you have to suffer now, or what's the penitence? How much you have to pay for this? Meanwhile, the kid just hit the ball through the window. And did the kid really have to do that much guilt and shame for the angle of which the ball came off the bat, of which they are a kid, right?
Yeah, it was an accident, right?
An accident. So why does that have to get to a level 7 or 8 or 9 or some parents 10? They'll spank the kid. How could you do such a thing? You need to apologize. You have to work at your neighbor for the next 20 hours doing slave labor for free. You know, you have to stay in Saturday all day, whatever the punishment is. Meanwhile, the group with the parents that were talking to the neighbor that was playing with the kids and hit the ball through it was, all right, how are we going to fix this? How much money is it going to cost? And the blame, shame, criticism turns into, a unfortunate circumstance.
So it's more of an adult conversation, it sounds like.
more adult. It's not power over, it's power with.
Mm.
Power over is when one person is doing something that is showing off how they have greater strength in order to boost respect or self-worth or recognition or acknowledgement or even importance or value. That's the need. And one is, how do we just get along and have fairness and justice right now? And not do anything more than we might only need to do fairness, which looks like, hey, would you be willing to call the glass person to fix the window, or shall I do it? Gosh, I guess you'll do it since you hit the ball. Yeah, I got it. I don't know. You gotta replace one. Yeah, I got that one.
So it seems like in the context of the child or youth hitting the ball into the window, the parental role seems to make this a more egregious offense.
It does. It does. It carries the weight in excess to from a very, very old model of power over, that a parent is having power over this child, and that this child's behavior is a reflection on the parent's respect.
Oh, so the parents are feeling embarrassed.
Correct.
Interesting.
Embarrassed because now they gotta feel uncomfortable talking the conversation over with the neighbor because of what their kid did for being a kid.
Right.
So the North Star here is that when somebody doesn't meet our needs in certain ways, there's certain agreements, laws, and even beliefs that impact that influence what the truth is. The truth gets influenced on this. The truth is that, does a kid need to suffer, punitive hours of time in their room in jail because they hit a ball, or a spanking, or they have to do labor to pay the thing back, or
should there be a big consequence for this, or should it just be understood that kids are being kids, and certainly there needs to be some justice or correction for causing damage?
Correct.
But like you say, it's maybe a level 3 and not a level 9 or 10 offense.
That's right. It's not a level 9 or 10 offense. But and you'll catch yourself in the next month, by the way. You will. You'll
I'm
go
sure.
like, oh my God, I think I just brought that up to a 5 and it should have been a 2. It's like, how did I get so upset at that one? And you can't, sometimes. So I learned this perception perspective. I learned this perception perspective very much from my dad, because my dad was actually pretty good about not escalating or tilting on his escalation whenever I did something and he did something and then I did something back to him. He was good at just going like, it's better not to respond to that thing. So let me give you one of my childhood mistakes.
Okay.
And one of my dad's responses to that. And then my response to my dad. And I would call it the escalation to World War III.
All right. So we're going to bring it back to our current context. All right.
That's correct. You see, I brought a few, a little bit of lumber to build this bridge, right?
Right.
All right. So my dad would not let me do something that I wanted at school for some reason. And I thought there were some really good reasons. He thought there were some really good reasons not. But whatever it was, is that the way he spoke to me, the way he handled it, I just got really pissed because he really wasn't hearing me fully. He didn't see how important it was. And it might not have been important, but the main thing is that choice wasn't discussed, and I wasn't being heard fully. So those two things pissed me off. Those are two really important needs, by the way, for all human beings. You got to have choice. You got to be heard. You know, if you want to get rid of gang groups, those are the two you got to get on. You got to deal with it. They need some choices, and they need to be heard.
Oh boy, I'm learning things about my own parenting right here. Okay, keep going.
And it doesn't mean you need to provide them choice. You just got to have the child or even the adult come up with the choices inside themselves. You don't even have to work by saying, "Oh, would you like the green lollipop or the yellow lollipop?" You don't need to do that choice. It's saying, "Gosh, I don't know. These lollipops look at things. I don't know what might be your choice." Instead of giving them the choices, don't give them the choices. Let their brain fight out what the choice is.
Okay.
All right, and then that is called more in the adult not consciousness versus the power over consciousness. It just tends not to go as well. All right, so now let's build this bridge a little bit. So I got mad, and my dad parked his truck in.
Oh, he pulled over. You were in the car?
No.
Okay.
We were at home, and that discussion took place. I was really mad about it because I couldn't go anywhere. My dad's truck just happened to be parked in the driveway, and so what I did was, I might have been like 9, maybe 10, maybe something like that. And so what I did is I took a rope and I tied it to this brick wall, and then I tied it to his passenger side window, the mirror.
Oh boy. This is
Side
almost
mirror,
an American Graffiti story. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah. It's got a little bit of that to it. So I took the rope and tied it to the passenger mirror, right?
Wow. Okay.
Now, and of course, I put slack between it, so when he came out of the passageway, he didn't see that I had done that.
Uh-huh.
So when he jumped in the car, threw his car into reverse, started backing out the driveway, it yanked that mirror right off the truck.
I was going to say, did the wall win, the brick wall, or the mirror? So the brick wall won.
The brick wall won.
Okay.
The brick wall the rope out.
And those mirrors are not like today's mirrors. It probably was a small bit of a mount and a very thin metal section to the mirror, not our big breakaway mirrors we have today. Yeah.
No, that's exactly right. So there was some clear problems there. Now, what did my dad do next?
Oh, I want to hear this. I can't even imagine.
I'm thinking he's going to escalate.
Right.
There's going to be some kind of, hell to pay.
Yeah, some big consequence.
Yeah, I thought something's coming next. Right?
Right.
Later, that day, I think he drove off because he had to go somewhere, and he also had time to think about it, and had time to think about his response. Came back in, and later that evening, he said, "Bill, I'm guessing you were pretty mad at me earlier, and I guess I could have said things differently, so you wouldn't have been so mad at me."
Wow.
And I said, "Yeah."
And
he said, "Let's not make each other pay for it."
Wow. That's a very adult response, isn't it? He didn't even have your training.
No, he didn't.
Wow. So there's something in your dad's experience or inherently in him
that's right.
That saw the bigger picture, and he didn't want to make you pay, so to speak.
That's correct. And we can literally, you and I can, just imagine the listeners now are going like, my dad would have beat the shit out of me.
Yeah, I think it's a very uncommon response, I would think.
That's correct. There's a spanking that's coming. There's a whatever's coming. There's a lot of things that are coming. But
Mm.
that wasn't my dad's take. My dad was taking ownership of he made me pay for something I said, not he is a wrong and bad child that needs to be punished, so he'll never do that again. Do we really need to escalate it? No, he killed the battle right before it went to World War III. If he picks the power over strategy and punishes me and beats me or whatever the hell he does, right?
Right.
He'll have a nasty rebellious 15, 16, 17-year-old on his hand later, because that's what many kids experience is they get to 15, 16, 17. They realize their dad and their parents can't do much really to contain them. And they've been sneaking around them for the last 3 years. And they realize, oh, they're really just paper tigers because they got to take care of me.
Wow.
And they get to do drugs and rebel. And I didn't have any of that stuff. I didn't have any of that stuff
Yeah.
because the level of violence was low. And I could say I'm born under a lucky star with some parents, and not to say that my parents have a set of problems. Don't get me started with their problems, but it wasn't the power over problem.
Right.
They had other problems of self-expression and not very good emotional intelligence and blah blah blah. They had other languaging problems. So in our, I broke the law. I broke an agreement, a family agreement. My belief was I was justified as a 10-year-old to do that. That was my justice.
Yeah, you were exacting revenge, if you will, for the for what your father had said, right?
Right. It's so interesting, Tom, that you mentioned the word revenge, because it seems like right now we're in a narrative that is partially leaning towards revenge.
We are.
If you
Yeah.
do something bad to me, I will do something bad or worse to you. So the revenge mindset has a little trouble to it because there is escalating violence all along the way.
Yes.
So you did this, you did that this way, you did it this way, you did it this way. It's like, oh my gosh.
Well, and even the threatening messages that are being exchanged between the American president and the country of Iran are escalating the situation even without firing any shots. That it's if you do this, I have 52 targets already picked out that I'm gonna take out if you do anything more.
Yeah, that's the thing. So it looks like the Iranians did a better job of communicating and staying away from the revenge game. So what they did is they warned the American base that they were going to bomb the base. They warned them 5 hours ahead of time. It's like, hey, we're sending missiles your way. You probably want to be ready to move and get clear of the area. And because they knew that they also wanted the revenge narrative to be in place, and it's worth the 15 missiles or so that they sent as a display of, you know what, we could have killed a lot of people, but we chose not to. And we chose not to by letting you know that we could have landed these things on your head, and we warned you. And oh, by the way, we even targeted them so they didn't hit the base and didn't cause any damage. So where are you going to go next? Are you going to escalate on a non-escalation piece? Because I think I just pulled the teeth out of the tiger now. It's like, you can't go revenge now. You have to deal with the accountability that you executed on one of our leaders. Because that's an international accountability. There was no war declared against this nation. but you took out one of our national figures. You did. And even though some of us, even in our country, don't like what he does, just like in your country, many people don't like what of some of the leadership is doing in your country. It's still, that's not the way this adult narrative is to run.
It's really very interesting. I saw that too as it happened, and I have to tell you, I have a brother-in-law who's in the armed forces, works at the Pentagon, and when those missiles were fired from fired from Iran to the bases in Iraq, that night he was put on alert that he might be going to Iraq literally imminently. And then within 24 hours, it was like, okay, no, everything's fine. I mean, so our military was preparing for escalation. And it's very interesting how it didn't happen. And I was looking at the situation and I thought, wow, I thought to myself, very well played, Iran. That's how I thought, because they needed to show their own citizens they weren't going to be pushed around. They're going to stand up for themselves. They're not just going to do nothing. And I'm sure that they're painting the picture. I think I saw some reports that they painted the picture that they killed some Americans, or that, they did much more serious damage than actually happened. But they have state-run media and they can control that narrative. They needed the video of the missiles flying in the air.
Yes.
And then they did it in such a way as to not really escalate the situation.
Right. And again, they're creating through these images the belief that safety is taking place, that we are going to stand up for ourselves, that we are going to take an action when somebody takes an action towards us. It's one of the most difficult challenges that we have, because we have a big military, that a extremely huge military that needs to be fed all the time. It needs a war somewhere, because it's so big. And what are we going to do with all these weapons? Oh, we're going to decommission them. Oh, we're going to make new ones and decommission those. So make new ones, we're going to decommission those. It's like, well, why don't we drop them somewhere? And what is the, I'm going to say this, it's still going to sound a little weird. What's the business model for our military contractors and military manufacturers? What's the business model? Well, we kind of need these things that we make to be used so that we can make more of them. Sort of like, if you make a light bulb that lasts 20 years, which they can, the light bulb business will go out of business because you need them to burn out sooner to keep the light bulb business working, because capitalism is more based on things breaking than it is about things lasting.
Yeah, there's not a lot of business growth in making things that last a lifetime.
There really is not. There really is not. So we do have both psychological problems and economic problems that all get stuck in this agreements, laws, and beliefs. Is that you don't want to be too tight on, a agreement or a law that doesn't give a certain amount of wiggle room, because all of a sudden then you might get fairness, but you lose freedom. See, you might get protection, but you lose privacy. Very huge.
That's a constant struggle, isn't it?
Struggle.
The protection privacy piece. That's a big one.
Yeah, China's going to have a lot of trouble with that, with their, citizenship model of, everybody being good, and we're going to videotape you just in case. And if you're bad, we're going to take away your travel privileges. It's like, things will not go well for you, and it's not a strong, not a strong end to an overly watched society or controlled society, because um, you got to keep choice in play, and you've got to allow people to be heard and work through the development of the good reason why, or the motive, the internal motive of why it's safe to cross the street, and in war, there's different rules for war than there are for individual crimes. It's kind of a little strange. In war, you can get away with all kinds of things, and individual crime, not as much so. There's less freedom, to exasperate violence. So.
Well, Bill, so I think we are in agreement that Iran was very shrewd in how they played this, and they had to do something. They couldn't do nothing for many internal domestic political reasons, but yet they did something that really, if Trump had escalated the next level, it would have looked like he's just being a bully and using it as an excuse to go forward, it seems. So what do you make of the president's press conference and, talking about this and the decision not to escalate? And how do you think he handled that? Was that an adult response, or was it something different?
Yeah, it was partly going like, well, we're nothing was damaged, and we're not going to do anything about that, but where he failed as a negotiator. Now, notice how cleanly I just stated that sentence. Where he failed as a negotiator is he had right there in that moment the ability to extend an olive branch and to set himself up to have success, not only with negotiations with Iran, but also to get reelected. Would you like to hear how he could have done it?
I would love to hear how he could have done it. Yes.
It would have sounded like this. Listen, we really respect Iran for not choosing to target our base directly, and to show a sign of protection that they're going to protect, and they're going to stand for the things that they value, which is their homeland. We also appreciate that they gave the base a 6-hour warning, so there would be no loss of life. If he would have acknowledged them in a conscious adult way, watch his next sentence. We're really interested in this moment forward to really come up with some agreements that would work better for both the United States and Iran, so that we can lift the sanctions and that we can get back to nuclear talks that'll make a difference. He could have pivoted.
He could have pivoted and appeared like a real diplomat and a hero. But what he did was he said, we're putting even tougher economic sanctions on them. Really, he escalated in a different way.
That's right. That's right. He didn't take the opportunity that was literally handed to him by them to demonstrate that he really knew what the art of a deal was.
Yes. Well, I know. I can see
Anyways,
you trying not to laugh too hard. But
I'm dinging a little bit here. So, even though, and my emotions go up and down the scale here, because different needs of mine get met, because, it's easy to support certain Republican values when they're in alignment with my needs. This is how protection looks. This is what fiscal responsibility looks like. This is what integrity looks like. Here's what laws, or, live into what the laws look like. I have a lot of those same Republican values. Same.
Sure. Yeah.
And then on the Democratic side, it's like, well, how do you provide help and support without creating things like codependency and other things? How do you do that? And how do you create a healthy society that's vibrant? How do you do that? How about that?
Yeah.
That's more of a democratic value set. So other than having the belief is everyone is in it for themselves, which is a individualistic, and it is not set up to be an equal opportunity, for different races and different areas and different economies that are throughout this nation. It's just not even. So
It's not. I agree with you. And if I can take a minute here to share a personal story, I've done a lot of international travel in my life.
Yes.
And
Yes.
you really, as an American, I feel like I didn't get a good perspective on what America really is until I left the country and experienced some other cultures and other foreign people's opinion and belief about what America is. So it was very interesting. I was in Germany in the mid 90s, early to mid 90s, on business. And I had a friend from college who's actually an American, but he was, his father was German, his mother was American. And so he spoke German and he lived there. And I met up with him and he took me to a party that was like a big art gala opening, and this very famous artist named Ingo Mauer. It was an opening of his recent work, and if anybody who knows the art world probably knows that name. But anyway, having this conversation with Ingo Mauer, and I'm being introduced to him that I'm from the United States and all this, and he says, "Oh, I love America. I have an apartment in New York." He says, "I love America," but then he paused, and he said, "But America is for the winners," is what he said. And he just captured in that moment. I mean, I've thought about it ever since. I mean, it's been more than 20 years, it's been 25 years at least since this happened. And it always is stuck in my mind. And it, the American dream itself and everything about how things are really structured in our country is set for those that don't have to aspire to have and to grow and to win. And in many ways, he is right that America is for the winners in reality, whether our founding fathers intended it to be that way or not, or there are many aspects of our society that are not, that are more for everybody and for the common good. But in reality, it really is. America is really all about winning and for the winners. So anyway, I found that always very interesting, and I thought that sort of aligned with what you were just saying. So I thought I'd share that.
Yeah, that's interesting because the winner mindset has it's an interesting piece that capitalism kind of brings out, is that there's a win-lose. Who can get the price right? Who can get the marketing right? Who can get the distribution right? Who can get the, all these different things in the right place at the right time, sell the certain amount of products, get the product to move out. The product, lasts its a year, 2, 3, 5, 7, whatever the product lasts. And then the consumer has to come back and replace that product. And that is a part of that, our mindset. And there's a winning, losing mindset that goes with that, So.
Well, and we talked often on this show about how, Donald Trump is a brilliant marketer. That's what he knows. And he knows how to win at that. And very much his, daily comments and, the things that he praises and the things that he, demonizes are really all about winning for himself for the most part. And it's very interesting how in this context, I don't think he ever would have had the presence of mind to extend an olive branch because he wants to be seen as winning. He's saying, I don't want a war. America doesn't want to fight a war. Therefore, this is the way I want it. I'm winning type of thing. And it's interesting. I wonder if trading the life for that general, Soleimani. When you think about what we traded for that, we took him out, and we have yet to hear from the government any real evidence about what these imminent threats were. And I don't know that we ever will, if it'll ever come out that there were any imminent threats. But we took a life there. I think actually several lives, but he's the big one, right? We took a life, and what did we get for it? Iran is now saying, all right, all bets are off. We're going to enrich uranium to whatever level we want. We're not going to abide by this nuclear treaty that the United States pulled out of anyway. Forget the agreement with the rest of the world. So was that worth it?
No, not really.
I mean, I wonder.
Yeah, it's in marketing, you never have to deliver. All you have to do is promise and create anticipation for the promise. So even if Iran consistently promotes that they're going to live by the agreement, our media will not promote that thought or that value. They won't. They just won't. They need to, capitalism, keep viewers on edge to listen to them. And there's nothing like somebody says, well, we're a peaceful nation. Yeah, we're not going to enrich uranium. We're going to keep to an agreement. Even though America pulled out, we're going to keep to the agreement that we agreed because we signed it with the other nations. And just because America is out of integrity, we're not going to be out of integrity. Will America media play that message? No, they won't. And if there's anything that Iran has learned about the United States is that we meddle in other people's politics to help our capitalist mindset. We do.
Or we allow others to meddle in our politics and influence our elections, if I could just throw that in there.
At this point, that bridge has been crossed the other way now, because we've been doing it that way. And that's the have your cake and eat it too narrative too. So this is a lot of big stuff. And the reason why I enjoy doing this Purchasing Truth podcast, Tom, so much is that when we're looking at perspectives and perceptions that allow us to discuss, well, what's the difference between individual justice, political justice, or wartime justice? Those are three different things. And if Trump did do a war crime, if he had a war crime that could be tried in The Hague, would America say, yeah, he did? We're sending him over. Try him. Or can you imagine if somebody captured him and said, we're going to try him here. We're trying him in our country. And, things, Osama bin Laden. How about if we capture him and try him in the United States? Why didn't we go down that path? Again, if we did that, if we would have done that instead of, killed him, if we would have captured him, brought him back to the United States and tried him and stuck him in jail, that would have been more of an adult legal response. Yes, he would have got convicted, but the key thing is it would have started down. This is what you're sending a message to the world this is what a legal process looks like. We're not doing the retaliatory kill thing. The
revenge thing. Yeah.
We're not doing the revenge thing.
Interesting.
Yeah, we're not doing eye for an eye, tooth for tooth. We're going to do he's dangerous. We have to protect from him.
Well, and I think at that point it's interesting. It could be argued he was really no longer dangerous at that point. Damage was done, right? He wasn't an imminent threat to the United States, yet we still go in there and take him out. I mean, again, I think I said in the last episode, if there was ever somebody that deserved to be taken out with all the heinous things he did, it was probably him. But it was not like you said, taking the higher road, the adult response, right?
That's correct. Because you've got to, it's not just sending a message to his followers. It's setting a vision of the world where people step into the next level of integrity, not the lowest common denominator that costs the lowest amount at the dollar store. That's the race to the bottom.
Right.
You kind of want respect to be a race to the top. Who can gain more respect by doing more adult things in more integritous ways? That's called a race to the top. Who's going to win the respect battle? Who's going to win the quality battle? Who's going to win the fairness battle? Who's going to do justice in a fair way? Who's going to do that?
Sure. And then, interestingly, in this case, killing that general, we just unified the people of Iran.
Yes.
They all rose up, protested. There's more hatred for America in that country than there was before.
Exactly.
That's probably one of the real long-term consequences of this action that was taken. That's really obvious.
So here's the weird part about it. Many Iranians really loved America because we defeated Iraq.
Right.
That was their enemy before. They liked us until this moment. Now, how do we just shifted them, the population, away from us, and we had a lot of the population, because that was the whole religious, Sunni Shia thing. It's like, hey, we took out the party that was holding, those groups apart. Anyway.
Well, more to come. Time will tell on this, won't it?
Let's look the next time I think we get together. What we could take a look at, Tom, I think is, truth as we run up to the elections. I think there's a truth process and a messaging process. And what I'd like to keep our eyeballs on this week, as you and I put our noggins together, is look for both media and campaign messages that look to, purchase truth, and ones that fail to do it.
Ooh.
Because there's a lot of ones that the message comes out and it fails.
And I'd like to look at that and to understand why they fail.
Yeah. Elizabeth Warren did one the other day that was really, really tragic.
That fell flat. Yeah. All right.
It was not a good choice.
Well, let's bring that to the table for next time, and I will be keeping an eye out for some on my own. And that sounds like fun. We'll do that, Bill.
Okay. All right. Thanks, Tom. Talk to you.
Thank you for listening to this Purchasing Truth podcast. We trust that you have enjoyed this engaging and thought-provoking conversation. Our hope is that you've received value, found clarity, and broadened your truth perspective in this episode. If you did, leave us a review or visit our website, purchasingtruth.com. Join us again for another informative and content-rich discussion here at the Purchasing Truth podcast. Don't just accept whatever information comes your way. Join the discussion. Discover your own voice. Purchase your own truth.